There we go. All right. How about her, Catherine?
Okay, so good afternoon. Thank you everybody for joining. We'll just start with a land acknowledgement. Um, so I'm grateful to be in Outlook today, situated on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. This land along the Chief Whitecap Waterway stretching from Gardner Dam to Saskatoon has been a place of gathering, travel, and connection. We honor the First Nations and Métis ancestors who have cared for this place for generations, and we affirm our commitment to the spirit of Treaty 6, grounded in respect, relationship, and reconciliation. As we gather here today, we acknowledge that people are joining us from many different areas across the province, each with their own connection to the lands and treaties where they live and work. I am coming to you from Treaty 6 territory, and I invite everyone to reflect on the land they are on and the relationships we hold with it.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Catherine. So yeah, welcome everybody to our Communities in Bloom session. We tried to do a few of these kind of annually. I know I'm like all in full on spring mode, even though, as Andrew mentioned, my yard has 5 feet of snow in the backyard. I've got a few things started in my windows, but yeah, I just can't wait for the full season to come. And I'm really excited to learn about Communities in Bloom new theme this year of edible gardens. I know, what was it last year? It was, the theme was orange, and sometimes it's different colors. And I really like this kind of new twist on things, and can't wait to see how it's represented throughout the province and see pictures on the Communities in Bloom site. So with that, we have a action-packed kind of full hour today. We've got Andrew, who's going to share a little bit on Communities in Bloom, just the basics of it. And then we are going to have the Communities in Bloom national team sharing again on that theme. And then we have Connie from the community of Outlook, who's going to be sharing a little bit about their program, on what they have happening there with respect to their community garden. So in the follow-up email, I'll share a little bit about the districts and kind of our collaboration and connection to Sask Lotteries. But we do want to acknowledge and high five their commitment to sport, culture, and rec in Saskatchewan, as well as the Saskatchewan Parks and Recreation Association. So with that, I was super chatty yesterday on the old Zoom call, so I'll try to be quiet today and let other people have the floor. So with that, I will pass it over to Andrew for kind of, yeah, a little 10-minute session on Communities in Bloom and how SPRA can kind of help us connect to that. So again, I mentioned that this session is being recorded. If you have a chance, change your name just so that folks know who you are, and if you want to kind of send some messages to them as well. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Aileen. I just shared my screen here, so I think everybody should be able to see that. I'm just repositioning you so I can see you. And yeah, and thanks for everybody for joining today as well. Aileen, just a thumbs up. You can see my green screen, right? Perfect. So yeah, it's a great group of people we have talking today during the webinar. It's nice to have Susan and Tina here from the National Communities in Bloom Foundation as well as Connie from Outlook. I saw the community garden just last year, I think it was, during the CIB tour, so it'll be exciting to hear more about that. But first, before the exciting stuff, you guys have to listen to a presentation from me for a little bit. And I just want to kind of go over some of the basics about Communities in Bloom. I know some of you are already involved with the program. Some of you are here to learn a little bit more. And we'll just kind of do a quick recap on what the Communities in Bloom program is and what the participation options are here in Saskatchewan. So to introduce myself a little bit, I am Andrew Exelby. I'm the Parks and Open Spaces Consultant with Sask Parks and Rec Association. I've been in this role since 2012. I do have a Bachelor of Applied Science in Landscape Management from Olds College. And I live just down the road from Aileen, kind of 4 miles north of Craven. So for those of you that know where that is, and work out of a home office here when I'm not traveling about 12,000 kilometers a year around the province. So for work. So worked with a lot of volunteers over the years, recreation directors, different municipalities and regional parks, and we're always looking to help further the parks and recreation industry however we can. SPRA is very proud to have our programs, services, and supports reach lands covered by Treaties 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10, and the traditional territories of the Cree, Dakota, Dene, Lakota, Métis, and Nakota and Saulteaux people. And of course, we honor and respect the treaties and our work moving forward with Indigenous populations. So for those of you that kind of wonder how Sask Parks and Recreation plays into all this and who we are, basically we're a provincial nonprofit funded by the Saskatchewan Lotteries Corporation. And our vision is a Saskatchewan where all people experience a better quality of life through parks and recreation. It's that focus on the environment and on parks, which is one of the main reasons we've been involved with Communities in Bloom. Our mission is to connect, educate, and inspire parks and recreation providers, and Communities in Bloom truly covers all three of those areas for us. Our funder is, as Aileen mentioned, Saskatchewan Lotteries, and we're very fortunate in Saskatchewan. We're the only province that has the Saskatchewan Lotteries Trust Fund, or a Lotteries Trust Fund, I should say, set up in the way that we do. And through that trust fund and the work of Sask Parks and Rec Association, Sask Culture, and Sask Sport, we have about 12,000 sport, culture, and recreation groups that benefit from the Sask Lotteries dollars, and around 1,000 communities that directly benefit as well. So what is Communities in Bloom? For us here in Saskatchewan, it's a provincial program that we operate through Saskatchewan Parks and Rec Association. We've been operating the program in partnership with the National Communities in Bloom Foundation and nonprofit since 1997. So we've been involved with the Communities in Bloom program for a very long time. And the Communities in Bloom program in Canada is based on the Britain in Bloom program, which started 60 years ago. And there's other international editions in various other countries as well, such as France and Ireland, which were certainly part of the roots of our Canadian program. And then there's also newer programs that we've influenced, such as the American Bloom program down to the south. Now, Communities in Bloom is meant to be a grassroots program. And certainly that's the approach that works best here in Saskatchewan. And one of the core components of the program is that friendly evaluation process. We have a team of great volunteer judges, Larry and Kathy Mickelson, Larry Hall and Kathy Mickelson, and Catherine are all three of our provincial Communities in Bloom judges. We typically have a team of 10 to 20 volunteers, and those individuals will actually travel out into your communities and provide ideas, suggestions, and feedback, all based on an evaluation grid developed by the National Communities in Bloom organization. The program vision is to inspire all communities to enhance the quality of life and our environment through people and plants in order to create community pride. And I always like to remind everybody, and this is actually a term that was coined by one of our former community participants as well as a judge. It's more than planting flowers, it's about community development. A lot of people hear Communities in Bloom, and even though we've been around since 1997 and 1995 for the national organization, say, oh yeah, that's that flower program. And no, it's much more than flowers. It's about that overall growth and development of your community, and really any initiative that makes people proud of the community that they're living in. There's lots of different program benefits. This is the program benefit statement, but our benefits are economic, social, and environmental. It's amazing through a program like Communities in Bloom, when you start getting all the different groups involved in a community, how Communities in Bloom can really act as that umbrella to help pull people together and create a sense of pride, and the benefits just keep on rolling. And it's pretty amazing the economic impact that Communities in Bloom has had as well. Over the years, and I would say this is a conservative estimate because we have to be careful when we start putting numbers down. But the program's helped over 1,000 communities in its 30-year history, or a little bit more than 30 years now. And that's had an economic impact of $28 million. So it's pretty incredible to have a program that's making that type of impact in a community. Now, our main role, what we do through the Communities in Bloom program to help our participants, we provide that knowledge transfer from SPRA staff and volunteer judges to the local staff and volunteers during the evaluation process. There's also ongoing support to CIB participants that I provide. I'll meet with communities whenever they want to. We send out regular updates with grant opportunities and contests and promotions, things like that. We have special recognition awards that we offer as well. We help them come up with those ideas for generating community pride through recognition of green spaces and their local Communities in Bloom initiatives. And we help exchange ideas so that they can create those local initiatives as well that will generate that pride and involvement. And sometimes it's also setting up the base for future success. Like, I can't say in Saskatchewan, tree management plans, I think they were started by Communities in Bloom. And the idea of tree management plans has in the last 15 to 20 years, has worked its way across this province because of the advice of our provincial and national judges. And it's really, now communities are finally getting an understanding of the economic value of the urban forests and how those assets can be managed. It's quite remarkable, actually. Communities in Bloom is certainly most successful when all the different levels of a community are involved. You need that municipal government support, or that local authority support. You need support of your businesses. You need support of your residents. It's all about cooperation amongst groups, overall community involvement, partnerships, and of course, trying to engage those volunteers. And Aileen and Catherine have full day sessions about how to engage volunteers. So I won't dwell on that too long. The program is focused on 6 key categories, those being community appearance, environmental action, heritage conservation, tree management, landscape, and plant and floral displays. And generally speaking, our evaluations are completed in July and August for the provincial program. And we also have quite a number of different participation categories. So we've developed a lot of different options over the years in order to meet all the differing needs of communities in our province. We have the competitive program, which is as it sounds. It's a competition against other communities within your population category. Winning this category leads to involvement in the national Communities in Bloom program. We have our novice category, in which you can pick 3 out of the 6 areas to be evaluated in as a first-time participant. And then either myself or our judges can provide a little bit more in-depth support through workshops or meetings with you throughout the year. We have our evaluated friends category for those communities that really aren't interested in the idea of competing, but they still want to get the ideas and suggestions from the judges. We have our friends category, which is non-evaluated, but is still a great option for communities that are very involved in the program. Some of our most active communities are actually non-evaluated friends. but they just don't feel like they really need an evaluation at this point in time. And then we have our tourist takeaway category, which is actually a cool category we brought in during COVID, and we've continued, where the judges will come into your community throughout that July, August time frame, and you won't even know when. They're using a somewhat adjusted evaluation grid, but still based on that national document. And they just tour through your community as if they're a couple tourists like anybody else. And this was done during COVID as a no contact option. But it's actually been really cool and provides a different perspective for communities to consider versus the standard evaluation where your community reps are actually touring people around to and pointing out things, right? And then we also have a category for our non-community based participants, as well as our very small communities. And that's called our places and spaces category. So this could be applicable to regional parks. We've had long-term care centers involved here. And this year we actually have our smallest hamlet to date involved with about 12 properties in this category. And it is a little more focused on green space, taking out some of the bylaw and municipal governance aspects that wouldn't apply for communities that would or groups that would register in this category. And so in summary, as we move into Tina and Susan's presentation, the key things to remember about Communities in Bloom is not to overcommit. A lot of communities get involved in this program and think they should do all sorts of stuff in the first year, and they end up burning themselves out. Some of our most successful participants have been involved for 25 years, 30 years. It's meant to be a long, continuous improvement program. Think of it as a marathon, not a sprint. Make sure you take inspiration from other participants. See what others are doing. Focus on those 6 evaluation criteria. Try not to get too distracted by all the other directions you're being pulled as a group. Don't be discouraged by slow progress. As I've said, it is a journey. It is not a sprint. Take your time. That's how you get great things done, right? They say Rome wasn't built overnight. And treat the evaluation as an annual health checkup for your community. It's not a scary process. Our judges aren't scary people. And, and Tina and Susan are smiling because they're also national judges. But, just treat it as that annual health checkup, that opportunity to gather some ideas that will help you, whether you're a volunteer or a staff or an elected official in your community. And with that, this picture of an edible garden at Langham School is kind of where I'll end it before we go into the next presentation. And I think we'll have time at the end for questions.
Yeah, I hope so. And I did put Andrew's contact information and the links to Saskatchewan Parks and Rec Communities in Bloom, as well as National Communities in Bloom. So yeah, we'll hand it over.
To send this presentation to you, Aileen, as well, so you can send it out in the follow-up email.
Awesome. So we'll pass it over to Susan and Tina and Stuart and the crew over at National.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Andrew. I'll be very, very brief while Tina's getting ready to share her screen. I've just finished 4.5 years as the national chairperson for Communities in Bloom, and I'm still very, very much involved. I am an international and a national judge, and I'm also working on the judging committee and the marketing committee and every which way, but loose to answering all questions at all times whenever I can. I'm really happy that you pointed out that there is a reputation for Communities in Bloom being that flower thing. I come to the program because of my municipal experience in economic development, and the councillors, because we're spending public money, are quite often saying, oh yes, that flower thing. And my role and that of the judges now is to tell people that is so much more than that. It's about growing great places together. And it is basically the main product that comes out of it is the evaluation grid and the template and the report from the judges that the communities receive that becomes a continuous template for a template for continuous improvement in all of the 6 criteria that we have. And as a community development person, this is bar none the best economic development, community development tool I've ever come across. And anybody, the communities I know who are listening, if you have had judges visit, you know it's a great experience because it's a show and tell like none before. And people are able to see all of the incredible work in all of the sectors in the community, the municipal, the public, the institutional, the residential, everybody's job and work is visited and evaluated, and all sorts of ideas for how to keep up with the great work. One of the ways that we do that is embracing our theme, which is growing great places together. And every year we do pick a different theme. This year, Tina, who's going to explain it a little more, came up with edible gardens. And it's absolutely a fabulous one that is something that can work no matter where and no matter when. It's a year-round kind of project. And just to touch back as to the numbers for our program. So Andrew, internationally, we've had 142 communities in 19 countries participate in Communities in Bloom. And we've also nationally had 1,355 across Canada from every province. So all sorts of people engaged and involved. The edible garden is something that we have chosen together as a group. And the whole point is to help connect, educate, and inspire the people with their yards, with their public spaces. So I'll leave it with that and let Tina say a few words about herself, and then we'll go on to the first slide, which is about the foundational approach to gardening.
Hi, everybody hear me well? Because I had problem with my audio this morning. My name is Tina Liu. I'm a volunteer as a national judge with Communities in Bloom, and also I'm a board member. But my day job, I'm a senior landscape architect at National Capital Commission. So I am responsible for the Capital Floral Program. So the flowers and the tulips that you see in Ottawa. And I have been planting food, vegetables, herbs, edibles or productive landscaping in the capital for the past 15 years. So this is it's something that it's an idea that I think and especially after the global pandemic, and I think this is food security has really became really brought to light, and a lot of people actually think about it because during the COVID time, pretty much in May they ran out of vegetable plants in any garden center. So it really shows the importance of being able to be productive in your landscaping. And we're going to talk about more than edible landscaping in this session, just to give you some ideas. So I'll let Susan start on this. Yeah.
So edible gardens. Everybody thinks, well, I have a vegetable garden, that's what you mean. And that is just the beginning. It's a foundation for productive landscapes. And I love that word because as a judge, and I've been with the program provincially, national, and international, and I've seen all sorts of examples of productive landscapes. And it wasn't until Tina came up with this slide presentation, I thought, oh, that's what it's called. We're being productive. And it's absolutely perfect. It's edible gardening, and it's creating natural spaces that are functional, that are beautiful, that integrate food and medicine and creativity in our daily lives. It can be applied to home gardens, public spaces, community projects. I will highlight with a few that I have seen. Rosemere, Quebec, a shopping mall that incorporates their public library. And you know, we all know the gray space where you put your cars, and there's usually lamp posts in the middle of them. At the base of the lamp posts in the street lights in Rosemere are gardens that have been built surrounding the light fixture that have all vegetables in it. And one of the things that they do when you get into the library, and you've seen these little vegetable gardens, and there's about 10 in the parking lot, you go into the library and there's a bunch of books on gardening, and there's a bunch of books on recipes, and there's a bunch of books on how to, you know, plant a row, grow a row, and create. So it's a brilliant idea by the library. Another one is in Kinistino, Saskatchewan, and this is the first time I'd ever seen it. Kudos, it was absolutely brilliant. Along their sidewalks in downtown, in some of the public buildings of downtown, as the backup fern against the foundation were all these lovely, lovely ferns, bright and airy and looked kind of familiar. And then it was pointed out, of course they're familiar, they're carrots. And it was like, aha. And in the fall, when it's time to eat the carrots and pull the carrots, there's little signs put out to invite people to do just that. And what a way to engage a community of all ages and all walks of life. You know, here, come and have some food that we've grown. The other one, and that I will point out, is in Orangeville, where they have just amazing gardens throughout the whole town. And again, they've got one of the best medicine wheels that I've ever seen. And it didn't strike me that it was a medicine wheel. It struck me as a beautiful labyrinthal kind of bed that had been planted and smelled beautiful and looked beautiful, and of course had all sorts of spirituality and theoretical issues attached to it as well. All of this is edible. All of it is used, all of it is useful. And that's what we're encouraging people across Canada and around the world to do this year, is to think, what are you planting and what are all the uses that you can find in it? And over to Tina.
So when we talk about edible landscaping, and people always think that it's a vegetable garden, so I wanted to talk a bit about how outdoor space can be used. It's not just for like floral and vegetables. So in people's mind, like they have vegetable garden in their home, and to tweak it a little bit is how we think of landscaping, combine it with what the design that came out when the idea of ethnobotany is to connect plant and people and places. And that's when that was the idea when I started doing the design in the parks and thinking of plant material as, because we're very used to going to the park and looking at it as a beautiful environment that we just stroll in the park, and instead of thinking of it as a tool, as a functioning space. So as the outdoor space, and we talk about it work as infrastructure, the green infrastructure, we combine the design with like stormwater management and all that. This is pretty much in a design level. But when we are talking about planting the material in it, and instead of having plants that with flowers that looks good, and we talk about food source, which is nourishment, healing, like medicinal plant that we talk about with the Susan mentioned about medicine wheel, and crafting dyes, fibers, and you can dye yarns or cloth and stuff like that. Building material, we nowadays we use bamboo, renewable energy and renewable materials that are they grow fast, and then they can be used as building garden structures, or even sustainable building structures, which is like hams that we can now that use it as making as building blocks, and which is fire resistance. They can be made into future use of building materials. Sustainability is connection to the land. This is because if we were using it as as a resource. And then you go out to the garden, you're not just looking at the flowers. I'm going to talk more about how I use my garden, and sometimes in the parks too. And then looking at you can look at, if you plant lettuce, for me in the parks, and in if you have been to some of the parks, the federal parks in Ottawa, I plant I plant food materials not for particularly for people. It's for all users in the park. So which include the bunnies, the other wildlife. We have groundhogs and everything, and the insects, birds, and throughout the season. And then we leave a lot of the perennial in the winter time, and then we leave some. We plant native berries in parks, so that the ground animals, that they can have the food during winter time, and so they wouldn't be eating things that you don't want them to eat, such as like digging up tulip bulbs and stuff like that. Because we plant a lot of tulips in for the festival. We plant about 600 to 700,000 bulbs every year. So we always call the squirrels are where the NCC, we call that, where the official gardeners of the capital, and then the squirrels are the unofficial gardeners of the capital, because they would dig up the bulbs and they plant somewhere else, and then you see a different color bulb somewhere. So so that's why when we think of planting your outdoor space, people always ask, how can I stop squirrels from digging up my garden, or bunnies from eating my lettuce and stuff like that? So when we plant flowers, and when we also plant some food source for the wild animal in the parks, so that they would eat the things that you want them to eat, and not leaving the things that you don't want them to eat. That's another way of planning the outdoor when people are trying to avoid wildlife, is we actually invite them, and we plant the other stuff that you can also spread out the season, and so that you would get different produce throughout the season, if that makes sense. So then we're gonna go to the next slide. Oh, this is mine too. So historically, when we talk about productive landscaping, especially we talk about Native American, the Aztecs, or Mayans, and then there's Asian civilizations. They all plant as a survival, right? At the time, would be planting is the same way. It was either for food, which is the main reason, and then started Asian agriculture. When we look at how they plant it, such as in North American with the Three Sisters system that the Mohawk culture has started. We're talking about the Anishinaabe in here in the East Coast in here. So with the corn and the beans and the squash, and they are beneficial to each other's growth, and also how the plants growing, and how they form fruit, and also how they give back to the land, and such as we have always been doing in the land for polyculture. We're planting different plant materials to benefit the land, and also benefiting the people who use the land. And I think we have to sometimes think about it, and then go back to what it was, instead of when we see how monoculture of agricultural practice has bring to us right now, that we always have, like, deplete the soil. And then there are other ways of other forms of agricultural practice that we have developed, and they're not at all so sustainable. But when we look at how it was, a few thousand years ago, it was a more sustainable way of doing it, is to have companion planting, to have historically, and they when we look at what was documented back then, we look at the practice of ethnobotany. It's using the connection with plants and people and places, like I mentioned, and it's fascinating sometimes when you see how the crop rotations, and how the different material, the different plant material give back different substance to the soil. And this is how we give back to the land. We take care of the land, and then the Mother Earth would take care of us. And this is how I see it. Like even in our park design, now that you will see a lot of the kales, and I plant a lot of the cabbage, kales, and different types of cauliflowers, Brussels sprouts. It's all in the park. And we're talking about in the parks. My project, I have 120 planting bed, which is 14,000 square meters of planting space. We have a lot of food to incorporate in there, and just think of the impact that if we all do that in small parks in your backyard, or even parks in the communities, what it can actually bring to the community in a big picture, and that what we can help with food security in today's topic. Susan, is this yours or mine?
This is me.
Okay.
So productive landscaping, the blending of beauty and food, that is one of the things that when you're planting an edible garden that you're going to be achieving. And the landscaping does combine both food and ornamentals for a functional, beautiful space. I've seen that happen many times. This picture illustrates it beautifully. We're also using things that we forget. When you're planting something year after year after year, you think of it as, oh, that old thing, and that old thing is your rhubarb that your grandmother had, and it's beautiful and blossoming and looks perfect and is now sitting in planters all up and down Main Street, that kind of thing, which is what a great segue. So it's rhubarb, asparagus for the ferns, raspberries, all long-term harvest, blueberry, any kind of berries, multi-use herbs. I'm a cook, and many of you probably are as well. Planting your own thyme, mint, chives, rosemary. Apart from the medicinal benefits, natural pest control. If you've got pots of very sensory-oriented herbs, you're going to have a lot fewer mosquitoes. Wild edibles for nutrition, dandelions. There's been huge things about dandelions. Please leave the dandelions. It's the first nutrition a bumblebee sees in the spring. Let it just go and let them enjoy it. Nettles, elderberries for year-round food options. And the one that's important too with everything that's happening in the world is food security. We want to know where our food is from, what's in it, who grew it. And I take great pride, and I'm sure every gardener in this conversation today does as well. When you've planted something, you've nurtured it, you've treated it well, you've taken care of it, and then you brought it into your kitchen, and you have then helped to create a most amazing meal and or pie or dessert or whatever. And there's a huge sense of pride, and you know exactly what you're eating. And that's an important thing. Another thing that comes with productive landscaping and blending beauty and food, this is a huge boost to local tourism in the last couple of years. So I'm not sure. I know in Ontario and places that I've visited, almost every place that I've visited has a farmer's market. And they flourish in the months of, sort of May to October. They provide local food for the people. And what I have seen develop over the last 15 years I've been with Communities in Bloom is the growth of the local food movement that gets local food and local recipes and local chefs into local and locally owned restaurants. And that's another boost to the economy. A good example in terms of blending beauty and food, I found this one this summer, or last summer rather. The international winner of the Small Villages competition for Communities in Bloom was Trim in Ireland. And if you ever get a chance, put it on your bucket list. But the color last year, you may recall, was orange. So everywhere we went, we saw plenty of orange plants. Trim was outstanding with their use of the color orange. But the other thing they were outstanding was it wasn't just orange nasturtiums or find some plants or flowers that are orange. They had throughout every church that they took us to, they have ancient churches, so any church that they took us to, any municipal building they took us to was alive with stunning bouquets of carrots and oranges and pumpkins, every kind of squash you could imagine, but stuck into vases of water with the green. They were absolutely, and I should have provided a picture of that, but just absolutely stunning arrays that were breathtaking. So, you know, there's the other things that come from blending beauty and food, the movement of farm to fork. And I know that that's something that's really, really grown. And people say, okay, here it is, here's what we're making, and here's the restaurant that goes along with it. I recently just signed up for a bird. I'm an avid birder. My feeders right now, I'm looking at them, are filled with birds at the moment. So I grow my own sunflowers, and there is local peanut growers here in Ontario that I could use that. I don't grow my peanuts yet, but that sort of thing is also an economic boost. And finally, the one that I've just signed, that I've just seen recently, are foraging tours for tourists coming into town. Then I know every town has a place where there's outdoor food readily available. So in our area, we have a lot of forests and woodlands, which means we have a lot of mushrooms. And there's all sorts of foraging tours right now that you can arrange and take. And then you stay in a really nice place and they serve you wonderful food and you have beautiful bouquets of all sorts of things. So it's really thinking outside the food basket and including everything in it.
So we're done companion planting. It's sometimes a different plant that you put together would enhance the flavor. Like if you're planting tomatoes and then you plant basil right beside it, and then you would feel like you when you eat, you can taste that the hint of basil in your tomatoes. And also it's naturally like a pest repellent, and marigolds is something that we've always used. And then the concept of thinking people plant marigold in the vegetable gardens to get rid of the pest, but in a concept of having the vegetable inside your flower garden, is actually, you don't just looking at the value, food value of it, you're looking at the structure of the plant. And it's interesting. The first time I actually got calls from schools, and then they were calling, and actually a school teacher that called my office. They were saying that they were thank you for planting vegetables in the parks, because they took the children to the park, and then even the teacher didn't know how Brussels sprout actually grow like that, like when you buy it in the store, and then and that's not what kids were used to seeing it, right? So that is when you I always plant flowers with the vegetables, like would put salvia with beet, or and also if flowering plants, it also attract beneficial insects, such as like ladybugs. Ladybugs would take care of aphids, and they can eat up to like 500 aphids a day, each one of them. So attracting beneficial insects, and you create your own ecosystem of having it a biological pest control. It's something that it's also companion is the plant, and also you attract the insect, and also as a companion, that it would take care of the pest. And beneficial insects would be some of the places that some of the projects that I've done, that we actually have praying mantis that really help a lot with a really bad case of pest at the time. And so for myself, I always use a different type of the method to attract a different type of beneficial insects, just to see how it is, like doing a lot of experiments on my own. But it's also it creates a better balance in your own garden, because you can have a productive garden with the fruits and also with the flowers, and also sometimes it's different flowers and you plant together, and then because they would cross-pollinate and you would have a different colors of flowers, and sometimes it's just different type of surprises you get in your garden. And I remember one time, Susan and I were judging in Leamington, Ontario, and when we go to their community gathering, normally people put like centerpieces of flowers, and then at that time there was all produce, because they are the greenhouse capital of Canada. They're very proud of it, and then they have a lot of produce, and every table is all the different vegetables. It's kind of interesting because we kind of rearrange it and kind of make our own centerpiece. And then it's something the community is proud of, and and um, and it's just to kind of show off what you do. I think this is for me with the plant materials that we use in the park. You when you we also it's companions also with when we talk about attracting benefits or insects, we're also doing pollinator gardens, right? So a lot of these can actually the different elements can put together, and then when we're thinking of designing our gardens.
So incorporating plants into building and crafting materials, that's something that we've alluded to, and the pictures tell this story very well. It's we have fences for a reason. It's because ancients built them with plants and with the materials available, whether it was willow or hazel or whatever, to create paths and to create parameters and perimeters. And we have taken that full circle, I think, at this point, from what you see on the left-hand picture, which is a beautiful, beautiful fencing system through a forest, to the chicken wire fences that you see around people's swimming pools that are not, or the chicken wire fences you see around the chicken coops. So we've gone full circle, and now there's other ways to keep animals in and people out, or keep people out or keep animals out and people in. I'm not sure what the big is. However, the use of these living fences and structures, natural fibers, hemp straw, other plant fibers, use those and be creative with them and think about how you can delineate your creations that you're doing in the garden. Sustainability benefits are huge. Number one, because you're not replacing them every year with like if your flooring is like it's far more economical to use what's available naturally around you than to have to take the fence down and build another fence and hire the guy and the lumberman, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things that I've seen that I thought was really interesting this past year was in some gardens in Stratford, Ontario, and they they'd made a trip to the people that built this particular garden had made a trip down to Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, and had collected all the driftwood they could possibly find, which they then used to make creations, and it's stunning driftwood sculptures and driftwood art that were all around their gardens. So it not only brought people in and became a source of income from them, it also helped to make the place look really beautiful and memorable. We also have seen other examples of using plants and building materials to create special events, like the Strawman Festival that is in Elgin, Ontario, Stone Fence Theatre, based on stone fences that you see all around Ontario, and the theater is all surrounded by stone fences, and it creates a beautiful gardened area for before and after the theatrical production. Pumpkin Fest, those are popular everywhere. So it's incorporating the plants, the animals, or the plants, the materials, whether it's durable wood fibers or grasses, all of which have a benefit, and now we're sort of saying include them into the plants and the fruits that we're growing.
So now there's something that we we don't talk about it as much as using plant material as dyes sometimes it's just not just for clothes and yarns and stuff like that. Because for myself, like I make soap, handmade soap, then and I dyed with natural ingredients. I would use beetroot powders or madder root to get the different colors. And also I'm obsessed with sourdough bread making. So I also use a lot of plant juice to make the colors in bread and stuff like that. So using a natural dyes like with plant materials is also something that it's interesting. Like turmeric and ginger, and these are also come with health benefit as well. And so for medicinal gardens, so this is we plant a lot of the different type of herbs and medicines and with the aloe vera that we always we use it for after sun soothing skins or skin irritations, or echinacea that we always use it as a lot of the material you can dry it and make it into tea, right? Such as chamomile or lavender. And lavender, you can actually use it as a scent and also use it in tea. You can also use it in your bread. And so to grow in the gardens that you have a food source, you have you can brew your own natural teas and all different tea blend, and depending on what properties you're looking at, and then you can it's very beneficial either to your to your body, and also that you know where everything's coming from, and if you a lot of the you can plant it without using pesticides and things. Most of us, we don't use the pesticides. That's why we promote it with it using biological pest control. And so you know where your food coming from, you know what goes into the soil, you know what's growing, and it's for me, like a personal experiences would be like I mentioned that I make soap, and my older daughter that she had eczema, so we used any kind of medication is just wasn't helping. So I started to look at what goes on her body, and that's why that caused irritation. And that's how I started making cream and soap at home with the plants in my garden. And this is also the medicinal benefit of it. And then I also start looking at the ethnobotany and looking at how Indigenous people use the different plants for the different purposes, health benefit. And this is another thing that you can do with your garden plants. Is this Susan? Is it yours?
Yeah, and I know in the interest of time, we're getting, you can tell by our enthusiasm, for which we're not going to apologize, but we will speed it up. So I think we've pretty much covered all of the items in this one, is sustainability and well-being. And we've said it all. I just love the picture of this girl and I love her shoes. But you know, because you should have fun in the garden while you are busy sustaining and working on your personal well-being. And maybe on to the next slide, Gina, because I know we've gone way over time. So this one is basically, it's a call to action. We do invite you to create your own garden, join the movement, embrace our theme, the Edible Gardens for 2025. And we suggest, as in anything, first of all, you need a plan. But start small and think of what you control. If you're like me, I have to do it that way because I'm not here an awful lot. So do what you can and do the best you can with what you have. And if it's all in containers, perfect. You don't have to worry about it. When you're away, somebody just has to water them. So think about that as you do your plans. And the next slide, please. is we do have some contests coming up, that the New Plants Love You contest. So please make sure to check out our site, communitiesinbloom.ca, and to share it widely. There will be details about contests that are coming up. And the other thing that we want to do, though, is we're inviting people, and we'll do this now because we have you in front of us, is celebrate your harvest. For sure, celebrate your harvest in as many, many ways as you possibly can. But we are also asking people to share your soup recipes with us across Canada. And, you know, there may be a contest someday. I don't know. I'll be on the taste board if necessary. But do share your recipes with us. And there will be lots more information on Facebook, on our Communities in Bloom page there, and on Instagram. And, you know, we have all sorts of programs that we do nationally, like Plant, Grow, Share, Row Communities, Grow for Good Gardens from Scott's. We do as much as we can to incorporate all of the things that do involve the natural world within the ones that you have control of. And so sort of stop it there and end it with a huge, huge thank you to all of the people who are attending here today, and invite you to, as I say, please look us up, please get involved with the community. Plants do love you, and Communities in Bloom is a great program to help all aspects of your community. Thank you.
That was incredible. And I do have a copy of the slide presentation to hand to people following this. Clearly, I did not plan enough time for this conversation, but we want to give Connie all of the time in the world that she has to share. So as I mentioned, the conversation is being recorded. So if you do have to pop out, if you have another meeting, I will definitely include this recording for others. But if you can, please, please, please stay on the call, because I know we're going to have a ton of questions, and we really want to hear about Connie's. So with that, if you have to leave, apologies accepted, but please stick around because I am so excited to hear about what's going on in Outlook.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I really appreciate
I'm
it
the
being
slide person.
yes, you are the slide person. While you're queuing me up, I will I'll introduce myself. So I'm Connie. I look after the Outlook community garden, and I have a degree in agriculture. My major is horticulture, and I currently work as the provincial vegetable specialist for Saskatchewan. So yeah, vegetable production sort of runs through my veins, and I spend a lot of time in fields with commercial producers, and then I come home and I putter in the garden at home or in the community, and can't think of anything I'd rather be doing. So we're gearing up to plant our sixth. Actually, you can stay on the first one. I'll let you know when to switch. So yeah, we're gearing up for our sixth community garden this year. We've only been around a short time, but we've had great community support, and also the town of Outlook has been extremely supportive. And so we're thriving, and we're having a lot of fun doing what we do. We tried getting a garden going about a year before we actually started. Our initial plan was to find some garden space, divide it up into plots, set up some irrigation, and develop some rules, and have a place for people to come and garden. We talked to churches, we talked to the English as a second language class. We, talked to a lot of people around town, and everyone thought it was a great idea, but nobody really wanted a plot. So next slide. Year two came, and we did know, we had talked to the food bank, and they were really interested in getting more fresh produce to distribute in their baskets. So we decided, plant it and they will come. So we planted our first garden, and on an empty lot behind the post office in town. And the garden was provided to us by the owner free of charge. Was 60 feet by 50 feet. And we planted corn, carrots, and tomatoes. These vegetables were requested by the food bank, and they worked really well for us. Carrots could be harvested just in time, or we could harvest them early and we could store them. The corn produces quite a lot at one time, so we could pick enough for distribution. And that and the tomatoes we could easily deliver to seniors. We've got 3 seniors facilities in town, so we could deliver to them between food bank distribution dates. We had a core of about 7 people who committed to the project. When we needed more help, I put a call out on Facebook. At the start, it was a little challenging, but once the community started to notice the garden and found out where the food was going, we really had good response from volunteers. So sometimes the biggest challenge was actually keeping everyone busy when we had a work bee. Next slide. So we kept things running for about 3 years, pretty much the same. We had beans one year, we had onions one year, we had garlic. We did a 3 Sisters demonstration and did a little garden tour one year. We continued to offer plants or plots to our community, but no one really seemed interested. But we had a lot of help, and it was easy to find places where the food that we distributed was appreciated. So we kept on going. One year we had a grade 11 class, I think it was 2021, we had a grade 11 class come out to plant the garden. There were, I think, 9, 16, 17-year-old boys showed up to plant. They were pretty fast. But we had them set up our drip irrigation system as well. And we also created a project for a special needs student at the high school who had a love of gardening, and teacher didn't really know how to channel that. So we worked with him. 5 of my colleagues on the garden are actually agrologists. My degree, like I said, is in horticulture. The fellow in the top picture with the red shirt holding the fork is Garth Whiterman. He is my partner in crime. We sort of run the garden together. And the fellow in the other plaid shirt is Dale Tomasevich. He actually has a PhD in soil science, and Garth has his master's. Now, you definitely don't need a degree to garden. Quite often, it's the opposite. It's really the passion, but it gives us that opportunity to be able to work with the school, and and we love sharing our passion and our knowledge with the school students. Hopefully showing them a different side of agriculture, and and maybe inspiring them to look at that area for future for careers. Yeah, next slide. So we pretty quickly came to the realization that if we were ever going to offer plots to gardeners, we need more space. We are committed to supplying the food bank and the seniors and any other charities that we can, the way we're doing it now. But we still would like to be able to offer more to the community. So in 2022, we approached the town looking for a larger area where we could expand. Not only were we outgrowing the space, but we also, we were on somebody's property. At some point, he was going to want to either develop or sell. So we just thought we needed to be ready. So the town gave us access to some unused space. It was actually being used for parking, but there was plenty of parking space beside it. Yeah, and that area is not scheduled for development for some time. So we feel like we can make some plans for the long term. And the space is over 1/2 acre, so it gives us a lot of options. Next slide. In 2022, we applied for and were successful in receiving a Farm Credit Canada Agri-Spirit Award. And this allowed us to purchase about 200 fruit trees. So apples, cherries, plums, pears, Saskatoons, currants, Haskap. And so we planted them along a portion of a walking trail that we from the river that leads from the river to the museum. We planted about 1/3 of the space. The Outlook Community Garden has an agreement with the town. We provide for the care of the trees. We do the pruning and weeding. And here we have a lot of deer that roam through town. So we do a lot of fence. We're getting them ready for the winter and planting. And the fruit's there for anyone who wishes to pick. It's available to anyone in town who wants to pick an apple or a basket of apples. So there were a few apples in 2024, but the trees are still pretty young and they did suffer from the drought. Just the year we planted was the year that the town was able to perform some water system upgrades. And there were quite a few times where things got broken or water was just not available. So we did lose some trees, but we'll replant them. Next slide. So we planted our first garden on our new plot in 2024. We actually only planted about half the garden, which is still more than 4 times the size of our old one. So this means that we were able to grow a wider variety of crops. We reached out to the newcomers to Canada through their English as a second language class instructors. And we had 9 new families, 5 Afghan, 3 Ukrainian, and 1 Chinese, who were interested in participating in the garden with us. And in return, they could take produce home to their families. So that meant we had the space too, so we could incorporate potatoes and onions, beans, peas, snap peas, bok choy, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, beets, just to ensure a more culturally appropriate diet. And we met Wednesday evenings to plant, weed, harvest, do whatever we needed to. I was concerned about wireworm infesting our carrots at the new site because that's a pretty common problem after you break up sod. And carrots are quite sweet and especially tasty to wireworm. So we planted our carrots back on the old garden site. Well, the morning we went out it was a Saturday morning, we went out to plant the carrots. I had way too many helpers. So we planted the old garden again too. So we had 2 gardens going last year. We actually had 3, but so in 2024, we provided our helper families which with as much produce as they wanted. We donated some in-season and some stored produce to the food bank, and they pack about 25 to 48 hampers monthly. And we frequently delivered produce, beans, corns, tomatoes, carrots, and broccoli to the 3 seniors' residences. And we shipped our excess to the food bank and the Friendship Inn in Saskatoon. Pictures below show some of our, some of our harvests. I am lucky, so I do some research at a federal facility here, ag facility in town, and so I hang out there quite a lot, and so they're quite comfortable with me using some of their storage space, which does help us out a lot. Yeah, so Outlook is the irrigation capital of Saskatchewan. And, our belief is that the community should look like it is an irrigation capital of Saskatchewan. But further to that, no one in this community should be hungry. So that's the need we feel that we're filling. So we've got future plans. Extending the fruit tree plantings all the way from the river to the museum and maybe a little beyond. More school projects. We'd like to do some composting projects and some water collection for irrigation projects. Careers in ag, definitely an interest for us. We've got some people on standby for preserving excess produce. Right now, it's probably easier for us to find uses for fresh produce, but they're there if we get to the stage where we just can't handle everything. And again, storage for when I do retire and I don't have access to the research farm. That's it. Thanks for your time.
So there is Connie's contact information as well. Stop sharing there. All right. Is there any questions out there for either Connie or Susan, Tina, Andrew? I know it's kind of just been a wealth of information, and I hope your notepads are full of inspiring ideas. But yeah, are there any questions for the folks on the call?
I've just got a comment here. Great presentation, Connie. And I've seen both of those community garden spaces in operation. And I want to point out, Outlook is the irrigation capital of the province, but every community should plan for water when you're running a community garden. You guys have done an exceptional job of that. But I know at the first location, I think you had to enter into an agreement with a neighboring homeowner, right? And the town helped with that process in order to access water. A lot of towns forget that. Right?
Yeah, no, actually it's been even more complicated. The new garden, we have our own supply. With the old garden, we had a neighbor that we used water from, and then something changed, and so then we ended up going burrowing across the back lane to another neighbor who actually got the water supply was the pressure was low, so he was actually getting some of his water from the post office. So yeah, it was complicated, but we made it work.
Yeah, for sure. And and like you said, water, sometimes it's simple, sometimes it's complicated, but often it's something that communities forget when they're setting up a community garden, or a food forest or anything like that. Water sources are important, especially in places like many places in Saskatchewan, but Outlook sometimes doesn't get a lot of rain.
It's desert. I call it desert.
Yeah.
They're also, I think it was either last year or the year before. I'll send it out when I share the slides and stuff. We did a presentation with Grant Wood as well as the communities of, what was it, Warman and Shellbrook or something up north on their actually how they constructed some of their community gardens and some kind of logistics behind some of that stuff too. So I'm not sure what Ituna or Southie, or if you guys have any kind of specific ideas that you guys are looking into, but they might be additional kind of resources as well. Because I know I'm gonna put Southie on the spot. I know you guys have done some, I don't know if you've been a Communities in Bloom member lately, but you guys have done some beautiful kind of beautification projects and the pocket parks and kind of the big planters on the ends of the streets. And yeah, just some really subtle things that have really made Southie shine, especially not necessarily just on that drive through, but right in town as well. It looks lovely these days.
For sure. Oh, and I appreciated too, like you said, it not every community will find a need for a community garden with raised beds or plots for people to use for their own use as well, right? But in Outlook, you found a way to still have that community garden, still offer that societal benefit of people working together to grow the produce and learn about growing, but also then providing to the local food banks and the seniors as well, right? So
Yeah.
that's really cool.
And it gives an opportunity for people in the community to give to, and that's what I think overwhelmed me at the start was how many people just wanted to help. And it really, the people complain about not enough help. We don't have that problem. Yeah, we have the odd time where, short notice or something else is going on in town, but really, the community has been absolutely amazing.
Cool.
So that is a great tie-in just to the kind of the ending conversations here. National Volunteer Week is coming up at the end of the month. And on the 15th of April, Prairie Central has a program where you can nominate a volunteer in your community or a volunteer group in your community for a volunteer recognition program. And with that volunteer recognition program, the winner does receive $1,000 to go towards a community initiative or a community program. And I'm just thinking, Connie, like that I don't know the logistics on it. I should figure it out. You probably can't nominate yourself, but I know maybe the museum board might be able to nominate the community gardens, just as like the things that you've done for the kind of the whole of the community. I know lots of volunteers, sometimes it's on specific, just like a sports team, which isn't just a sports team, it has so much beyond. But I know the work that community garden has done with the newcomers in the school and just kind of connecting even sometimes a different demographic of people getting together to do things in community, I think is really wonderful. So kudos to Outlook for the work that you guys have done there. And again, thank you to all the Communities in Bloom people. Yeah, please reach out to myself or Catherine or Andrew on how to become a Communities in Bloom member. I know he could have talked for hours and hours and hours. We just had a session in Langham that was a full day inspiring people. So there's lots of slides we can share, and yeah, pick up the phone call because we're all here to visit. And yeah, we can't wait to see what goes on at the national level. And I know Prairie Central and myself, we follow along on the Instagram and Facebook, just some cool things going on. So it's always nice to see that how it is more than flowers and that kind of community development. I like that aspect to it. So thank you all again. I should have booked this for an hour and a half. Thanks for sticking around.
I'd just like to say thank you as well. It was very interesting listening to you, Connie, as well. I've been to Outlook and I'm originally from Lloydminster, but it's great to see that you're doing things like that. It's well done. Kudos.
Thank you.
And thanks everybody else for being here too. We'll see you all in October in Stratford, Ontario, no doubt.
Well, I'm going to hit stop recording, and yeah, feel free to stick around or leave or stay for the visit. It's totally up to you. And I'll send out the slides and an evaluation form shortly.